Hey, what's up, you guys? Okay, so here we have S&P 500 chart, and we have also showing here the SPX fair value bands, the lower band and the upper band, right? This is using the trading view indicator for that. And I've turned off the actual fair value, so we're just looking at the lower and the upper bands. So a lot of folks have been estimating what the possible end of year value for S&P is. Most people are estimating it to be a little lower than where we're at now, or a lot lower in some cases. Let's be conservative and say that, let's see, the low of this year, which was this low we saw in October, let's suppose we're going to get back there. I've heard some people say like they don't think we're going to go, like that was the low, so we're not going to go lower than that. So if we want to be conservative and say, okay, fine, then let's just suppose we drop back to that level, right, and test it at the very least. So that is around 34.95-ish. So let's just call end of year estimate to be 3,500 for the lower bound, right? Okay. Okay, so here's an Excel spreadsheet. Let's work through the numbers for that. Okay, so right here we have the formula for SPX fair value, and it's basically SPX fair value is equal to Fed balance sheet minus reverse repo minus TGA, and then you have a few constants here. So it's an equation with 4 variables, and so the idea with one of these, of course, is if you have any 3, you can calculate the fourth one, right? And so, like we said, for the end of the year, we wanted the lower band to be at 3,500, and so we can get fair value from that. If you look at the way the indicator is written, the lower band is basically 150 from fair value. So right here I'm saying, SPX fair value lower band, let's say we want it to be at 3,500, so that will put SPX fair value at 3,650. Okay, so we know the Fed balance sheet current value, right? We'll put that here. Let's just estimate it's going to ballpark drop about 80 billion in December. We've been saying I know the theoretical drawdown value per month is going to be 95 billion, but it's been closer to 80. Looks like it was a little higher this month, November, so we'll see what it does, but let's just be conservative and say it's only going to drop 80 billion in December. So that by December 31st, that would put us around, this is the value for the balance sheet, right? Okay. Now for the TGA, Treasury General Account, we have also seen that the Treasury has said they want it to be about 700 billion by December 31st. So we have an estimate on what that should be as well. All right, so given those assumptions and estimates, we know what we want the fair value to be. We know what the Fed balance sheet will be by the end of the year, and as well as the TGA. So we just need to solve for RRP, right? So we have this equation, we can solve for RRP. Okay, so there's this table here, and it's got the 4 components of the equation, right? Fair value, balance sheet, reverse repo, and TGA. And the way this worksheet is set up, or this table is set up, if you enter any 3, it will give you the missing 4th value. So like if you know Fed balance sheet, reverse repo, and Treasury General Account, it will then calculate for you SPX fair value, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the idea. So here's the row where I ran the numbers for this. We plugged in, we know that SPX fair value, we want it to be 3,650. Well, here's the balance sheet for by the end of the year. That's this number right here. Put it in there. And then we knew TGA is 700 billion, right? So it's telling us RRP, given those numbers, would have to be around that level. So if we look at that, that's 2 trillion and change. So let's see, let's call it 2038.89 billion. So let's just call it 2039 billion. Okay, and here's a chart of RRP, basically for this year, starting around at the beginning of the year. And you can see here's where we're at now, right around 2.05 trillion. This that I draw on the screen here, this measurement down, there's a user on Twitter, Maximus Decimus, who's put the target for RRP in mid-January to be at this level, 1.5 trillion. That's a heck of a drawdown. We'll see if it turns out to be the case. Okay, so like I said, here's where we are now, and that number we came up with for RRP would need to be at the end of the year to facilitate that lower level of SPX is this yellow line right here. So essentially, we cannot move it can't go much lower than where it's at now. So if we measure from where we're at now to that level, it's only about, it gives us about 15 billion of wiggle room. So it can drop about that much and not much more than that. So that really puts the Maximus Decimus mid-January target into perspective, because if you go with what he's saying, let's say mid-January, that's really only 2 weeks later after, obviously the end of December. So the idea would be like, will it be here and then make this drop within those 2 weeks? I mean, if you look at what it does historically, it seems highly unlikely. So either this level doesn't hold and it starts to make its way down to this target by mid-January, or or maybe it just doesn't end up heading to this level at all for mid-January. Anyway, that's pretty much all that I wanted to show for this video. I just wanted to show how you can kind of reverse engineer some of the components of this model. And by the way, this is just using this fair value model. If there's a lot of people who don't really believe in it, so take this all with a grain of salt. This is not a prediction. This is simply an exploration of this model and saying, what does it predict, right? And like I said earlier, the reason I'm using this, the fair value indicator, as kind of a guideline is because for most of this year, the price has bounced between the two. So just using it as a kind of a starting point just to look at things. Please don't, make a huge trade based on this solely alone. Hopefully you're incorporating other factors into your analysis. All right, thanks a lot, guys. Bye.